Part 50. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 491. Chapter 491. There is no forever. So Lilei put away his unserious expression. Your Majesty the Imperial Preceptor, he said, it was the Imperial Preceptor who set up the Feng Shui array for me, which made my offensive against the Emperor much smoother. It was like God's help. He didn't understand why the Imperial Preceptor would help him. But when the man appeared in front of him and asked him if he would save Xiaoling, he agreed without hesitation. Even if it's a scam. Even if you risk your life and fortune. He only hopes that Xiaoling can be happy and be able to leave the shackles of that man. Fortunately, he made the right bet. Xiaoling then understood what was going on. It turned out that her brother was responsible. Didn't he say that the oath is irresolvable? She asked dazedly. Lilei was stunned. When did he say that? Xiaoling said, not long after I was taken away by Pei Xian, I handed over the amulet Tamina to you and asked you to find him. Later you sent me a message, saying that the National Master expressed his request to me. Nothing can be done about it? So this is what you asked for at that time. Lilei was a little confused. He didn't help us untie the oath at that time, why did he come forward to help now? Xiaoling also couldn't figure it out. It seemed that these questions could only be asked clearly after meeting her brother face to face. She said to Lilei, will the Pei family really go bankrupt? Lilei narrowed his eyes slightly, don't tell me, you feel distressed. Xiaoling smiled bitterly. She really felt a little distressed. After all, although Pei Xian was cruel to her, he was also kind to her. The entanglement was too complicated. He likes me. There is nothing wrong in the first place. He just used the wrong method. Xiaoling's voice was very soft. You suppressed him to save me. After he lets me go, don't make things difficult for him anymore, okay? He treated you like this, and you still think about him. Lilei's expression turned gloomy. The wound on her lower abdomen was still there, but she had already pleaded for the man, you really, don't love him. Xiaoling was startled and realized that he was jealous. She didn't know what to say. Lilei still didn't know about reincarnation. I know I owe you an answer, Xiaoling said after thinking about it. If I can come back to you this time, I will tell you the past events that happened with him. Lilei, now I love the person is you. Since she can go back, she will no longer hide it. She loves him. This is the oath she keeps in her heart after experiencing countless winds, rains and stormy waves. Lilei's expression gradually relaxed. Okay, he has known for a long time that there is a secret in Xiaoling's heart, a big secret, about the resumes and Pei Xian who don't match up. Before the paragliding accident, he was only a little bit close to finding out the truth, but because of the accident, everything became chaotic and even the investigation was interrupted. Now, she is willing to tell him personally, why not surprise him? Take good care of yourself, Lilei said, I will be able to pick you up and leave soon. She smiled and nodded. Lilei stayed with her for a while and then left the hospital. By the time Xiaoling returned to the ward, the group of reporters had dispersed. Even the ward had been tidied up, and all the utensils had been replaced with new ones. On the other hand, the little nurses looked at her a little strangely. They probably believed what the reporters said when they saw the battle today, thinking that she and Li Liu had broken up and married Pei Xian in order to become a commercial spy. Now, the emperor is about to fall, and she is going back to Lilei. They were vaguely disdainful of her. Xiaoling didn't care. She had too many things on her mind and had no time to care about what the outside world thought of her. The stitches on her lower abdomen have not yet been removed, and it hurts from time to time. She does not dare to move now. She needs to take good care of her. What should she do if she can return to Lilei but cannot give birth to a child? She regretted her impulsiveness. What I regret even more is that I failed to take good care of the baby. Otherwise, she could return to Lilei with the child in her arms and tell him that this was their child, named Shayawai, which meant inheriting the glory. My heart is sore and painful, and the situation of the 100 Days banquet has changed suddenly, only a month ago. But it is a time of great change. I stayed in the ward for a long time. In the evening, the driver came to pick her up. "Madam, please come home with me." Xiaoling was slightly startled. "My wound is not healed yet, and I need to continue hospitalization." She didn't want to go back to that home to face Pei Zion. However, the driver said, "Sir, you asked me to pick you up and go back for dinner." Seeing Xiaoling's unwillingness, the driver couldn't help but add, "Madam, please go back and take a look, sir. He has lost a lot of weight recently." She remembered what Lilei said, the Pei family was about to collapse. Suddenly, I felt a faint uneasiness in my conscience. These disasters were all caused by her. Pei Zion had harmed her and her children, and she had also harmed his family. This bad relationship should come to an end. It would be a good idea to go see him before Lilei took her away. So, Xiaoling followed the driver back. Pei Zion stood in the dim light of the living room and looked at her. "I'm back after not seeing her for nearly a month." His expression was indeed much haggard. If Lilei was radiant, then he was withered and depressed. For a moment, Xiaoling didn't know what to say. "Come and have a meal with me when you get back," Pei Zion said, turning around and entering the restaurant. Xiaoling followed silently and saw that the table was filled with her favorite dishes, both from this life and from the previous life. There were dozens of them. Xiaoling was frightened. Pei Zion had already sat down and placed a large piece of grilled scallop on her plate with his own hands. "Eat." "He is a little abnormal today." She didn't dare to ask any more questions, so she just stayed with him and had a quiet dinner with him. After dinner, he went against the norm and did not go to the study. Instead, he took her to the terrace to taste wine and admire the moon. "Do you still remember that 19 years ago, I brought you back?" Pei Zion looked up at the cold crescent moon in the sky. His voice was low and distant. "I fell in love with you at first sight at that time, thinking that I would protect you forever. Don't let you get hurt." Xiaoling is silent. Where does eternity come from? In the end, wasn't he the one who hurt her the most? Pei Zion poured a glass of wine and drank it slowly alone. He was really unusual today, and Xiaoling couldn't figure out what kind of medicine he was selling in his gourd, so she didn't answer or persuade him. He drank one cup after another until finally the bottle was empty. He turned his head and looked at her carefully for a long time. "Xiaoling, do you still remember that time I said I would never let you get hurt?" Unfortunately, in the end, it was still messed up. Pei Zion stood up and said to Xiaoling, "The night is cold and the dew is heavy. Let's go to bed." Xiaoling was confused and followed him to bed again. Like many nights this year, she was held in his arms and fell asleep silently. His body leaned up from behind and held her in his arms tight. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 492. Chapter 492 Tianyi, I'm back. When he woke up the next day, Pei Zion was no longer there. Xiaoling got up and went downstairs, where she found Zhou's mother secretly wiping her tears. Xiaoling asked, "Mother Zhou, what's wrong with you?" Zhou's mother raised her head and saw that it was her. Her tears couldn't stop falling. It took a long time before she sobbed and said, "Madam, are you leaving your husband? How could you leave him when he is in such a difficult time? Aren't husbands and wives supposed to share hardships?" Xiaoling was stunned when she was asked, "What is all this?" She knew that Lilei would force Pei Zion to let her go, but how could Zhou Ma, a servant, know that she was leaving? Could it be that? "What did Pei Zion say to you?" Her voice trembled. The gentleman said that when you wake up, he will ask the driver to take you to Mr. Li from Tianyi, Zhou's mother cried. He also packed a lot of things with his own hands and told me to bring them to you. Pei Xian is willing to let her go. Xiaoling's mind went blank. After being dazed for a long time, she gradually came back to her senses. But it still felt unreal. The cage she had tried so hard to escape from for so long was really let go by him when she was already desperate. She stood there, not knowing what to say for a moment. No wonder he was so abnormal last night, he must have made a decision at that time. Recalling his sad eyes last night, I felt a little disappointed and sad. Madam, please don't leave, okay? Zhou's mother looked at her expectantly. Mr. loves you so much that he wants to give you his heart. You don't know that he. Zhou's mother cried again and could not go on. The night before he picked up Xiaoling, Pei Xian was in a very bad mood. He didn't eat dinner and sat in the study all night. When he went downstairs the next day, Zhou's mother pointed at him in surprise. Sir, you. He didn't know what happened, so he went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, only to find that there were many white hairs growing on his temples. He slowly touched those white hairs with his hands. It turned out that the ancients said that hair turns gray overnight, and it turned out to be true. He looked at himself in the mirror for a long time. Turning around, he said to Zhou's mother, "Go find me hair dye." He was going to pick up Xiaoling back in the evening. How could he let her see him looking so haggard and embarrassed? He thought and added, "Don't tell madam." So, at this moment, Zhou's mother wiped her tears and swallowed back what she wanted to say. "Madam, please stay with your husband," she begged again and again. "Madam, I know that your husband can't forgive you and fail to take good care of your children. However, it's not easy for him either. He is sincere. Love you." Xiaoling also felt uncomfortable. Thinking of the ups and downs she had had with Pei Xian over the years, her eyes were slightly red. However, she must harden her heart. Li Lei is still waiting for her in Tianyi. That is the person she loves to spend her whole life with, her Wutong Mu. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, there was no emotion in her voice. "Where's the driver? Ask him to take me away." Seeing that she couldn't persuade her, Zhou's mother sent her to the car while crying. When getting on the car, Zhou's mother put a small box into her hand. "Madam, you must bring this with you. The husband has prepared it for you." Xiaoling didn't know what was inside and wanted to refuse. Zhou's mother cried again, "If you refuse to accept it, your husband will be even more sad. Please, don't hurt him anymore." So Xiaoling bit her lip and pushed back the sound. The Rolls-Royce drove all the way to Tianyi. Xiaoling looked at the tall office building of Tianyi through the car window, and for a moment, she felt like she was in another world. "Madam, I can only take you here." There was suppressed annoyance in the driver's voice. If the husband hadn't ordered them not to be disrespectful to her, how could he keep calling her madam? A like this who abandons her husband in times of crisis is not worthy of being called a bitch. People here are not clear about her grudges with Pei Xian. They all think that she was greedy for glory and wealth. She was afraid at the emperor's most critical moment and returned to the embrace of her old lover. What's more, maybe just like what was said in the news, she deliberately came to Pei Xian's side to be a spy. The poor gentleman is still infatuated and has no regrets. He sent her away when he could no longer protect her or continue to provide her with wealth and wealth. The driver had a hard time holding back and refrained from swearing. Xiaoling put on her sunglasses, covering most of her face, carried a small box, and got out of the car. Standing in front of the spacious and bright main entrance of Tianyi, I felt a little timid for a moment. Finally, I walked in step by step. There were people coming and going in the lobby on the first floor, and all kinds of big stars could be seen everywhere, surrounded by their agents and assistants, walking in a hurry. She was petite, and she didn't have enough rest during the childbirth period, which made her look even thinner. She was wearing a soothing thin shirt, standing inconspicuously among the bustle, and she was wearing sunglasses, so no one recognized her for a while. She figured out the direction a little and walked to the front desk. "Hello, is there anything I can help you with?" The girl at the front desk of Tianyi was warm and polite. Xiaoling said, "Please help me find Li Lei." She was released by Pei Xian, but Pei Xian still didn't give her a mobile phone. She had to go to the front desk to find Li Lei, and she didn't know what he was doing today. "Are you in the company or not?" The girl at the front desk took another look at her. There were many people looking for her, but not many were looking for the boss. She asked Xiaoling, "Miss, what is your name? Do you have an appointment?" Xiaoling said, "I don't have an appointment, I'm dash." She just wanted to tell her name, and then she remembered that the news was making a fuss now, and it was spread everywhere that she was in two boats, so she went to find Li Lei so carelessly. Would it be wrong? Wouldn't it be good? However, she missed him so much and wanted to see him that she couldn't wait a minute. "Is he in the company today?" She changed the subject. The girl at the front desk was a little wary when she saw that her answer was not straightforward. "Did you not make an appointment?" "I'm sorry, I can't tell you whether the boss is here today." Xiaoling was a little anxious. After thinking about it for a while, he just calmed down and said, "I'm Yasin Ling. You call Li Lei and tell him who I am. He will meet with me." Yasin Ling, the girl at the front desk, was surprised. She didn't expect to see her here. Recently, the news has been saying that her boss and the Emperor's Pei Dong are fighting again, and it's because of her. Because of surprise, the girl at the front desk unconsciously raised her voice. Soon, many people's eyes were looking this way. Xiaoling frowned. She didn't want to be watched here, so she just urged the girl at the front desk, "Please help me inform Li Lei." "Oh, okay," said the girl at the front desk. If it were Yasin Ling, the boss might actually be willing to meet her. The girl at the front desk wanted to verify the authenticity of the rumors. Her spirit of gossip was burning, so she didn't mind the trouble and immediately called the chairman's office. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 493. Chapter 493 Visitor Pass. The chairman's office is very large, divided into two sets, inside and outside. The outside is where the two special assistants, Su Tang and Tan Ying, work. They are responsible for all documents submitted to Li Lei and phone calls. Today, Tan Ying went out to do errands, and Su Tang was left behind. Su Tang answered the phone and his voice turned slightly cold. "Yasin Ling? Just say the boss is missing." After saying that, she hung up the phone with her graceful, slender, jade-like hand. The tip of her eyebrows frowned slightly. Yasin Ling came over at this time. I wonder what happened? Li Lei had almost defeated the Emperor recently because of her. Could it be that she came here to plead for mercy from the Emperor? If you really want to beg for mercy, that's all. Su Tang's beautiful eyes showed a trace of deep thought. The more she looked towards the Emperor, the more she pushed Li Lei away, and the less likely she was to get back together with Li Lei. But what if she didn't come to plead for mercy? As the outside world said, maybe Yasin Ling is just clinging to wealth, and she follows any man she sees gaining power? What should she do if she comes to seek refuge with Li Lei? Su Tang didn't know about the oath, and he didn't even know that Li Lei was able to crush the Emperor this time because he had Xiaoquashi behind him. She simply thought that Li Lei attacked the Emperor to vent his anger, but luckily, he actually defeated the Emperor. The intercom phone rang again. Su Tang went to answer the call, and it was the girl at the front desk who said, "Assistant Sue, Monsieur refuses to leave." She said I must not have informed the boss himself, and said it was impossible for the boss not to see her. Su Tang was a little impatient. The boss is busy and has delayed his business. Can she afford the compensation? The girl at the front desk murmured, "How about you give us another notification?" There have long been speculations circulating in the company, saying whether Assistant Su has a secret crush on the boss. However, Su Tang had always been restrained and elegant, and he concealed all his emotions so well that no one could tell for sure. It's just that the girl at the front desk is suffering, being caught between the boss's rumored girlfriend A and his rumored girlfriend B, and is in a dilemma. She doesn't want to be expelled yet. Woohoo! Su Tang hung up the phone again. The girl at the front desk raised her head sadly and looked at Xiaoling. "Miss Ye, the boss still hasn't seen you. Otherwise, you should go back first." Xiaoling felt something was wrong. "Did you call Su Tang just now, not Li Lei himself?" "I'm not qualified to contact the boss directly," the girl at the front desk said weakly. "All internal calls must be relayed to Assistant Su." She brushed herself off and thought to herself, hoping that this Miss Ye could know right from wrong. If Miss Ye really has an affair with the boss, don't let the boss fire her. Xiaoling didn't know what was going on in the girl's mind at the front desk, so she lowered her head slightly, thinking that Su Tang had never liked her very much. Would she be hindering her? She said to the girl at the front desk, "Can you lend me your phone?" The girl at the front desk handed her the phone. Xiaoling took it, followed her memory, and dialed Li Lei's mobile phone number. Li Lei was busy revising a battle plan and talking to the general manager of the Strategic Investment Center about the key points when the phone rang. He glanced at it and saw that it was an unknown caller, so he didn't answer it. Xiaoling waited for a while, but no one answered. She called again without giving up, and Li Lei pressed the phone directly. "Why don't you answer the phone?" said the general manager of the Strategic Investment Department. "I called twice in a row. Maybe there is something urgent." Li Lei said nonchalantly, "It's probably an advertisement." The people who knew his mobile phone number were all very familiar relatives and friends. He had all the numbers, so it couldn't be a strange call. Moreover, if these people are really in an emergency, they can also find out the company's landline number and just transfer it directly from the landline. "This investment plan is very urgent, let's talk first," Li Lei said, pointing to a place in the plan. "If I were Pei Zion, I would launch a counter-attack from here." The two of them started chatting passionately again. The girl at the front desk watched Xiaoling making a phone call, and the people coming and going around her also glanced at Xiaoling. Tianyi is a place where gossip is common. Xiaoling only stood at the front desk for a few minutes, but the news spread throughout the company. She came to Li Lei with a suitcase. Could it be that she had left the crumbling Pei family? The big boss who ran away from home and came to join them? The gossiping crowd began to pass by the front desk at various opportunities. "Didn't the phone go through?" the girl at the front desk asked Xiaoling. She is a little suspicious of the rumors now. If Miss Ye called the boss just now, the boss didn't answer the phone? Is their relationship really as ambiguous as rumored? Is it Miss Ye's wishful thinking? This little girl was so busy with gossip that she forgot that her cell phone was calling from an unknown person. Xiaoling came to her senses and returned the phone to the girl at the front desk. "Thank you." Thought for a while, then asked, "Can you help me call Sister Maina?" "Sister Maina," the girl at the front desk checked the intercom number. Wait a moment. She dialed Sister Maina's extension, and after a while, she told Xiaoling, "I'm so sorry, Miss Ye, Sister Maina is not in the company." Xiaoling almost sighed. "Where is Wei Shaiyin? Is Wei Shaiyin here?" The girl at the front desk worked hard and lowered her head to check. "This time, there is finally a surprise. Mr. Wei is in the recording studio in Building B. He said he is busy and will not come to pick you up." Please let me get you a visitor's pass and go directly through the main building. When Wei Shaiyan gets busy, she becomes crazy, nervous, and irrational. Under such circumstances, just remembering to ask someone to get a visitor's pass for her is already good. Xiaoling knows that she can't ask for too much. So, she smiled at the girl at the front desk and said, "Thank you for now." She could only sit with Wei Shaiyan for a while, and then meet up with Li Lei after she could contact him. The girl at the front desk is not sure about her relationship with the boss, but it's true that the company's chief music producer doesn't dislike her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for the visitor's pass when he was busy. The girl at the front desk, who is familiar with the personalities of the company's important people, deeply understands that with Wei Shaiyan's violent temper, it is already raining red from the sky to see guests at this time. She gave Xiaoling 2 visitor passes. The silver one is for Building B. The visitor passes for Building B and Building A here are not valid. You must take a detour. If you hold the visitor pass for Building A, it will be different. You can take a shortcut through the aerial plank road here. She guessed that Wei Shaiyan was a busy person and would not remember such a small thing as the visitor's card not being accepted. Within the authority of the front desk girl, she could only give Xiaoling a silver visitor's card, or she could open a small back door and give her an additional golden visitor's card. Considering that the relationship between Xiaoling and the boss was a mystery, for the sake of her own job, the girl at the front desk was a little accommodating. Xiaoling accepted her kindness, took 2 visitor passes, and thanked her profusely. She was about to go to check the door control when suddenly, a voice as cold as jade sounded. Who gave her a visitor's pass for Building A? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 494. Chapter 494. Suti helps out. Xiaoling turned around and saw a woman wearing a light lilac silk embroidered crochet dress. It took her a while to remember that the elegant and beautiful woman in front of her was Sutang. They had not seen each other since the last time they saw each other at the Li family headquarters. She still remembers that time when Sutang placed a time bomb on her helicopter off the island. If Li Feng hadn't saved her, she would have turned into fragments on the vast high seas at this moment. The past is coming back. She recalled that Li Lei said at that time that he had transferred Sutang away from him, so why was he back now? Xiaoling doesn't like this elegant and cool woman very much either. After all, no one would like someone who has tried to kill her. She looked at Sutang and took off her sunglasses. Do you have any objections? Sutang didn't expect her to be so stubborn. In Sutang's impression, whether Xiaoling came to beg Li Lei to let go of the Pei family, or whether she came to defect to Li Lei, she should be frightened and humble. Why does she look so arrogant? What she didn't know was that Xiaoling had experienced tremendous changes in the past few days, and had finally escaped from Pei Xian's control. She thought she could return to Li Lei, but she couldn't get in touch with anyone after several phone calls. She was just out of anger. Just in time, I bumped into Sutang who had just blocked the phone. Have you told Li Lei that I'm coming? Xiaoling asked coldly. Sutang Rong smiled lightly and elegantly. The young master is very busy and has no time to see you. MRS Pei, she emphasized the word MRS Pei and quietly raised her voice, making the people coming and going raise their voices. The people who listen to the gossip can also hear clearly. You are already married and have given birth to an heir to the Pei family. Now in public, what are you doing in the company of your husband's rival? You don't need to worry about what I want to do, Xiaoling said calmly, with a cold voice. Please give way and don't stop me from swiping my pass. There is an access control inside Tianyi company. If you don't swipe your pass, you can't get in. Who gave her the pass? Sutang didn't give in and just asked the girl at the front desk quietly. After she refused to transfer the call for Xiaoling, the more she thought about it, the more wrong she became. What if Xiaoling met Li Lei through other channels and rekindled her relationship? They must be prevented from meeting. When Li Lei completely defeats the emperor and the Pei family goes bankrupt, maybe Xiaoling will hate Li Lei and there will be no chance for the two of them. So, Su Tang hurried to the front desk. The girl at the front desk has always been a little afraid of Su Tang. She is too elegant and unsmiling. She is a famously cold beauty in the company. The girl at the front desk said timidly, "It's Mr. Wei Shaiyin. He wants me to give Miss Ya a pass. Please go directly from the main building to Block B to find him." "So, you gave Ye Xingling 2 passes," Su Tang's voice became even colder. The girl at the front desk nodded timidly. Su Tang opened her thin lips lightly, and her voice was like broken beads splashing jade. "Don't you know that Wei Shaiyin doesn't have the authority to issue visitor passes to the main building? The recording studio building is in Block B, and Block A of the main building is an administrative office building, which has the chairman's office, finance department, legal department, various economic strategy centers, information centers, etc. are not allowed to enter." The girl at the front desk was speechless and speechless. Of course she knows that Wei Shaiyin does not have the authority to issue visitor passes to building A of the main building, but this is not a big deal. Tianyi is not a hierarchical place. There are often visitors to building B for convenience. You can pass directly from building A, and everyone can. They all turn a blind eye. When did the requirements become so strict? However, when we really looked into it, it was the girl at the front desk who was at fault. She could only lower her head obediently and listen to Su Tang's scolding. "Do you know who Ye Xingling is? She is the wife of the Emperor Pei Dong, the chairman's wife. For someone with such a special status, you go directly to the main building. Li Fang, if something happens, can you take the responsibility?" His words were clearly scolding the girl at the front desk, but in fact he was scolding Xiaoling. "You are already Pei Xian's wife, so don't come to Tianyi to fool around, and don't try to steal business secrets." There were many smart people among the nearby onlookers. They all reacted when Su Tang said this. "Yes, this Mrs. Pei, does she think she is still a singer in Tianyi? Why did she rush into the main building so casually? Tianyi was having a fierce fight with her husband's emperor, and she didn't know how to avoid suspicion. Xiaoling is a little pregnant. Although the child is gone, the stupidity is still there." She didn't understand what Su Tang meant and said very silly and sweetly, "I don't want her to be responsible." Su Tang was stunned for a moment, and was suddenly blocked by these words. He was speechless and choked. She has always been elegant and used to talk in a roundabout way with puns. When she met a girl like this who didn't recharge her IQ, she didn't know how to deal with it for a moment. After pausing for a few seconds, he said, "You can't enter the main building. I want to go in." "You can't come in." Oh, Xiaoling was going to enter the main building, but she suddenly realized that she could take a detour and go to the auxiliary building. Although Wei Shaiyin does not have the visitor's permit in the main building, the recording studio in the auxiliary building is his studio. She didn't see Li Lei today. She couldn't rely on the power of Boss Li, but she could definitely go over there and rely on the power of producer Wei. Xiaoling, who wanted to understand this, turned around and left. "You," Su Tang was surprised. "He drove people away so easily. Legend has it that Ye Xingling is a fighter among thieves. She once defeated Xiaoyu, Gulin, and others, but now it seems that she is not that good either." Su Tang couldn't come to his senses. What she didn't know was that Xiaoling liked to fight, yes, but she was in low spirits today. Too many things have happened recently, including pregnancy, getting a marriage certificate, giving birth to a child, the child's death, being injured, something happened to the Pei family. She left Pei Xian today with an extremely complicated mood and came back to find Li Lei. All her energy was spent. When you are exhausted in emotional entanglements, where can you find the energy to find something to do? Let's stop quarreling if we can. Besides, if you really don't like Su Tang, just ask Li Lei to move her farther away in the future. Xia Ling, who turned on the silly and sweet mode, staggered out. Su Tang stared blankly at her back, not feeling the joy of being a winner at all. On the contrary, the calmer the person looked, the more nervous she became. She always felt something was wrong. After all, Assistant Su is the most powerful. A young manager nearby flattered Su Tang and said with a smile, he drove away the emperor's wife of the chairman in just a few words. Yes, yes, one after another others echoed, Su Te's help will be unfavorable. The administrative building is no different from the recording studio building and the brokerage building. Those art buildings have a liberal atmosphere and no one is accustomed to getting up or down. But here, after all, there are more white-collar workers, although there is less office intrigue than ordinary companies. But not entirely. If you can flatter Su Tang easily when you meet him, many people will be happy to do so. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 495. Chapter 495. Thank you, boss lady. Su Tang's face showed a faint smile. She saw Xiaoling walking to the door, and the automatic sensor door slid open under her feet. It was already close to noon, and the sunlight outside was a bit dazzling. Xiaoling raised a hand to cover her forehead, squinting her eyes slightly, trying to distinguish whether to turn left or right. At this time, a man chased out through the access sensor, Xiaoling. Everyone was frightened. Boss. He went after Yexing. Yexing was so virtuous that she actually let the boss chase her after him. Someone who is thoughtful has already taken a peek at Su Tang's face and found that she looked a little bad. She was the one who stopped Yexing from meeting the boss just now. The boss's behavior was simply a slap in the face to Hong Qiuqiu. Su Tang was shocked. Why did Li Lei come out? How did he know that Yexing was here? This started when Li Lei hung up on a call from an unknown person. He has always been efficient in his work. In the office, he quickly worked out the next battle plan with the general manager of the Strategic Investment Department. After it was over, I finally remembered that there was an unknown caller on my mobile phone number, so I dialed it back. The person who answered the phone was the girl at the front desk. Boss, when she discovered that it was the big boss who called her, the girl at the front desk was so excited that she could hardly speak. You asked me why I called you? No, the call just now was not made by me. The Emperor's wife? It's Mrs. Yexing. She's here to see you. Li Lei then realized what he had missed, and chased after him as soon as he got off the phone. Finally, we caught up at the door. Xiaoling turned around and saw Li Lei. Today, he was wearing a clean white shirt. The buttons on the chest were buttoned a little casually, revealing his light brown and well-proportioned chest, which made many onlookers blush and their hearts beat. He stopped in front of Xiaoling, lowered his head, and smiled warmly. Xiaoling, you are here. Xiaoling looked at him sideways, but she was unhappy. I'm not here to find you. Ah. I'm here to see Wei Shaiyan, she said proudly. He just refused to answer so many calls. Why are you chasing him now? Wei asked me to come up and sit down with him just after a phone call. What about you? Now that Tianyi has expanded, your arrogance is getting bigger and bigger, she glared at him fiercely. Boss Li was extremely aggrieved. How did he know it was her who called? If he knew it, even if he had the guts to do so, he wouldn't dare not accept it. The boss apologized to his sweetheart aggrievedly. I was wrong, I won't dare to do it again next time. The attitude of admitting his mistake was very good, just like a primary school student who was caught and scolded by the teacher. Xiaoling burst into laughter, and her originally depressed mood improved a lot. She tilted her head slightly and looked at him like that, her eyes gradually filled with tenderness, and she said softly, I'm back. 4 words as light as a feather. But Li Lei's heart blossomed in an instant. What did she say? She has come back. Go back to him and never go to Payzian again. In an instant, the whole world became the background, and only her pure smile was infinitely clear before his eyes. The moment when she looked at him and smiled, it was the most beautiful moment in the world when flowers bloomed. In a daze, he took a step forward, took her into his arms, and kissed her. They are all human beings. Everyone is staring at them. Day, you read that right? The onlookers felt that they were going crazy. What happened to the boss? Is he really having an affair with the Emperor's MRSP? So passionately embracing a married woman and kissing her at the door. Why didn't you know that boss had this hobby before? Do wives control it? Everyone was devastated. Sutang's expression was ugly. Ordinarily, after being Li Lei's special assistant for so many years, Li Lei had been surrounded by many Yingying Yanyan before Xiaoling appeared. USC's cultivation of qi was good, but now, seeing such a scene of intense affection, it failed. Her expression was terrifyingly cold, which startled the little girl at the front desk next to her. Oh my God, Assistant Su looked so gloomy. In contrast, he was embraced by the boss and bathed in the pale golden sunshine. That girl is as beautiful as an angel. Although, that is Dongpei's wife. Is this the rhythm of your own boss attacking someone else's city and taking someone else's wife? This is so limitless, so shameless, so domineering. The girl at the front desk has starry eyes and is obsessed with her big boss. Xiaoling had already pushed and struggled away from Li Lei's arms. In front of so many people, her face was red all the way to her ears. You bastard, she whispered. Li Lei grinned widely, suddenly took her hand, and faced the numerous onlookers in the company with her. Your boss's wife is back. I'm treating you to a big dinner today. Yeah, the crowd cheered. Although I don't know what the phrase "the boss's wife is back" means. MRS Pei and Boss Pei haven't divorced yet, but everyone understands the phrase "have a big dinner, boss, please have a big dinner." Based on their past experience of following Li Lei, it must be a big feast. Super expensive and super huge. The onlookers were so happy that they burst into tears. Thank you, boss. Thank you, boss lady. Now, they don't care which boss lady Xiaoling is. Everyone celebrated with their foreheads and palms together, running around telling each other. Only Sutang, standing in this commotion, still looked cold. Li Lei took Xiaoling's arm and walked step by step towards the inside of the company. As he walked, he gently warned Xiaoling, "Be careful, slow down, how is your wound? Don't open it again." Xiaoling smiled lightly. How could I be so fragile? When she passed by Sutang, she felt a faint fragrance, a nice smell of shower gel, no makeup, calm and moving. Sutang's eyes were filled with jealousy, and he lowered his eyes slightly, covering it up with self-control. "Master, isn't it good for you to let MRS Pei in?" When the two of them passed the door, Sutang spoke in a cold voice. She looked at Li Lei with a pair of calm, watery eyes, very sincerely. Li Lei frowned. Xiaoling is here as if she were at home. This is Tianyi, not MRS Pei's home. MRS Pei's home is the Emperor. Sutang refused to give in. Although his voice was elegant and cool, it was like a needle hidden in a cotton wool. With a few words, several onlookers around him turned their heads and looked over. This assistant Sut and MRS Pei still need to be pinched. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 496. Chapter 496, Bring him back. Xiaoling turned her head to look at her. Why is this Sutang always at odds with her? Is this your home? She asked Sutang. Sutang did not expect that she would ask this question. He was slightly startled and cleverly avoided the topic. "MRSP, what we are talking about now is your business. Who wants to tell you about me?" Xiaoling's voice was light but not oblique at all. "Who are you?" Sutang could only cry when she met an opponent like her. They don't pay attention to the subtle elegance between women at all, and they don't have the consciousness that girls should have when they fight with each other. Don't girls always have something to say and conceal their wits? Why is it so straightforward? You are so straightforward, how should the other party respond? Have you considered the other person's feelings? Sutang held it in his heart, his chest felt tight. She has been elegant all her life and is used to playing word games. If Xiaoling tries to talk words with her, she will definitely not be her opponent. But I didn't expect that they were so simple and crude. Sutang secretly gritted his teeth, hating this girl who acted unconventionally, and reluctantly replied, "I am Tianyi's special assistant. As a person from a rival company, if you try to enter Tianyi, of course I will tube." If Li Lei wasn't here, her words would be quite righteous. Unfortunately, Li Lei is also there. Before Xiaoling could speak, Li Lei had already frowned. "Sutang, why did I ask you to follow me to care about these trivial matters?" Anyone with a discerning eye could see that the boss was looking towards Xiaoling. Xiaoling was not happy. "Don't speak, let me speak. I'm helping you." The boss felt aggrieved. Xiaoling glared at him. "Who wants your help? When a woman quarrels, a man should not interrupt. Haven't you heard? Li Lei. Well, is he flattering the horse? Why did he forget that his Xiaoling is a picky person and will definitely fight in person when there is a quarrel? He didn't know that Xiaoling was really not in the mood for a fight today. When Li Lei was not around, she just turned around and left because she didn't want to confront Sutang head-on. Right now, there is a reason to stand up. She didn't want to watch him quarrel with his subordinates and lose his price in public. What kind of noble status does he have to have trouble with Sutang? It's enough for her to take action. Xiaoling looked at Sutang with a pair of clear eyes. "Yes, you are just a special assistant, and this is not your home. At best, you are just a steward of Li Lei's family property. As a steward, what qualifications do you have to treat the master?" "Are you pointing fingers? What kind of master are you?" Sutang said this quietly through gritted teeth. Nothing else mattered. The words master made her heart ache like blood. This woman was obviously a married woman, so why was she still occupying her young master? Still consider yourself the master? Unexpectedly, Xiaoling just said, "I didn't say I was the master. Li Lei is the master, right? He wants to bring someone in, let alone me. Even if it's some cat or dog, it's not your turn. Stop it. Or do you people in Tianyi have the habit of climbing on top of your master's family?" The last words were very serious. In front of Li Lei, Sutang could only lower his head. "How is that possible?" "Then you have nothing to do with this matter." A smile appeared on Xiaoling's lips. She looked at her with a proud look, stretched out her hand to hold Li Lei's hand. "Let's go." Li Lei looked at her lovingly, and when he saw her smiling contentedly like a little fox that had stolen something, his mood suddenly improved. "Let's go." He led her through the crowd and onto the elevator like a general returning in triumph. Sutang was left alone, his face turning blue and white. Arrived at the office. "Why did you bring her back as a special assistant?" Xiaoling complained and nestled into the soft sofa next to the bed. Li Lei poured her a glass of water, his voice low and magnetic. "Are you tired? Come and drink some water. I was too busy fighting the emperor a while ago and was short of manpower, so I asked her to come back. Besides, she was not with him. Around him, the old man in the family is worried, always saying that there is no one who knows how to feel cold and hot. The old man is getting old, and Li Lei doesn't want to see him worrying about him." Xiaoling took the water from him. Even though she had been away for a year, he still knew what she liked to drink, half a slice of lemon and honey, a perfect ratio. She took a satisfied sip and squinted her eyes slightly to savor the taste, just like a docile and comfortable cat under the sun. Li Lei looked at her tenderly. Xiaoling thought about it for a while before continuing to complain. I don't like her. It was a complaint, but it sounded a bit coquettish. Li Lei smiled indulgently. Okay, if you don't like it, I will transfer her away tomorrow. Xiaoling opened her eyes and looked at him. Really? I lied to you that I was a puppy. He half knelt and half leaned by the sofa, holding his chin up and looking at her. You are a puppy. Xiaoling reached out and ruffled his short hair. The feeling was very comfortable, just like in her memory. I missed it so much that I rubbed it more. You bullied me as soon as you came back. Classmate Li Xiaoli. I felt wronged again. I'll bully you, I'll bully you. Xiaoling finished stroking his short hair and then pulled his cheek. What's the matter with just bullying you? I've been bullied for a year, and I'm not allowed to ask for anything. Interest. He looked into her eyes with a smile, but the smile disappeared. Xiaoling, his voice was faint. He reached out and grabbed her cold little hand, holding it in his palm. How did you get along with that man this year? How did you become so thin? Her expression also darkened. After being silent for a long time, he said as lightly as possible, actually, it's not as bad as you think. He didn't treat me badly in terms of food and clothing. It's just that, I was pregnant with a child, and I suffered a little during the delivery and confinement period. Bitter. This was the first time he heard her mention the child in person. I saw it on the news. His voice was a little dry, because she had a child with another man, and his heart hurt as if a piece of it had been cut out. His name is Xiaowai, right? He, without mentioning the last name, just say, what a great name. A gentle smile appeared on Xiaoling's lips. He is a good boy. Smiling, tears flowed down her cheeks. Xiaoling, what's wrong with you? Li Lei was a little flustered. Do you miss your child? Did Pei Xian let you go, but didn't let you leave with your child? He held her in his arms and hurriedly comforted her. She just cried silently at first, but gradually she started to cry out with choked sobs. Li Lei became more and more nervous. Be good, don't cry, if you really miss the child. He paused for a long time and then said, let's take him over. I'll go negotiate with Pei Xian and ask him to be released. Okay. Don't worry, I will take good care of the baby with you, just like my own. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 497. Chapter 497. Chance Encounter. Xiaoling cried harder. He didn't know that the baby was his. However, he never had the chance to find out. The baby had died on the day of the 100-day feast, and he had not had time to see his biological father. She was devastated, but she couldn't tell him, Li Lei, that baby is your biological child, but he is already dead. Since the baby is dead, let Li Lei think he is Pei Xian's son. At least, he will not experience such heart-wrenching grief as hers. She cried and said intermittently, he is dead, my baby is dead. Li Lei's heart sank. He recalled the magazine photo, where the child smiled innocently, like a little angel. It's really strange. It's obviously her and Pei Xian's child, but why, when he heard the news of the child's death, did he feel so heartbroken that he couldn't breathe? He held her hand slightly tighter and asked hoarsely, why, dead? She shook her head, unwilling to recount the tragic situation of the baby's death again. But in his heart, he could not help but recall the garbage dump that night, the photos, the urn, and the dirty and swaddling clothes that Pei Xian asked the driver to bring. She cried so hard that she was trembling all over, as if she wanted to cry out all the grievances she had suffered for more than a year. She felt that she was useless. She had racked her brains and suffered so much, but in the end she couldn't even save an heir for her beloved. Arrive. Their baby, such a cute baby. Lilei still comforted her, feeling that the person in his arms was crying so hard that he was about to lose his breath. His thin body was like a small boat in the storm, as if it would be broken into pieces at the slightest touch. He lowered his head slightly and wanted to say a few words of comfort, but found out, blood, your wound has opened again. Xiaoling, be good, come here, lie down, I will help you treat the wound. The wounds were still not fully healed when I was hospitalized that day. The lower abdomen was stabbed deeply with a fruit knife, leaving hideous marks. Lilei carefully peeled off the gauze little by little. As expected, her fair and flat lower abdomen was covered in blood again. Stop crying, he said very gently. If the baby knows that you cried and opened your wounds because of him, the spirit in heaven will also feel sorry for you. With great difficulty, she held back her tears intermittently. The wound on his lower abdomen had split open twice in just a few days and turned into a mess. Lilei frowned, bandaged her temporarily and said, Xiaoling, I have to take you to the hospital. She nodded, thought of something, and grabbed his sleeve timidly. What's wrong? Lilei asked softly. She said, almost unable to hold back her tears, I can no longer be pregnant. Lilei's heart skipped a beat and he pursed his lips tightly. The news came so suddenly that he was unprepared. How could Xiaoling never get pregnant again? So will they never be able to have a baby again in this life? His hand holding her arm tightened unconsciously. Xiaoling felt pain, thinking that he was unhappy, so her tears flowed out again. If you want to have a child with another woman, just tell me and I will. She choked for a long time and said intermittently, I will, leave you, never entanglement. What nonsense are you talking about? He was really angry because of her words. I am marrying a wife, not a reproductive tool. He looked seriously into Xiaoling's eyes. Xiaoling, divorce Pei Ziyan, I will marry you. Whether you can give birth to a child or not, it doesn't matter. We can find a surrogate. If surrogacy doesn't work, we can adopt a child. How can I marry a woman other than you in this life? Give birth. She didn't expect that he would say these words, and she cried even harder. Lilei wiped her tears gently. You little fool, what are you worrying about? Just rest in peace and rest until you become my wife. He scratched his nose. How old are you? She was crying like a little cat. She burst into laughter. Lilei bent down, picked her up and asked the driver to drive her to the hospital. The people at Sinning Hospital were also drunk. This Yasinling was really capable. She had just been taken home by the Emperor's Peidong just a few days ago. Now, she was actually carried by the powerful boss of Tianyi and sent here. I have seen people who ride on two boats, but I have never seen anyone who rides on two boats and still be so upright and harmonious. The doctors and nurses at Sinning Hospital now believe the news report. Yasinling is indeed not related to Li Liu. She may have married Pei Ziyan just to steal the Pei family's business secrets. Now the Pei family is about to be destroyed by Lilei. After being defeated, Yasinling retired and returned to Boss Li. The idea is perfect. They bandaged and treated her, and each of them looked at her with strange eyes. Xiaoling didn't care about so much. She stayed in Lilei's arms the whole time and couldn't bear to let go. Returning to him was too sudden, like a dream, and she was afraid that the dream would be shattered as soon as she let him go. The doctor suggested, it's best to stay in the hospital for observation for a few more days. Her last hospitalization was not full. Xiaoling shook her head. I don't want to be hospitalized. She was reluctant to leave Lilei. Lilei inspected her wound and felt that it was not serious. At this level, she would be fine if she took good care of it at home, so she also rejected the doctor's proposal. The doctor no longer persisted, prescribed some medicine for her, and sent them away. When I went out, I met Zhou's mother. Seeing Xiaoling and Lilei together, Zhou Ma's expression was complicated. She wanted to say something, but she just moved her lips and passed them by in the end. Do you know that old woman? Li Lei didn't recognize Zhou's mother. A servant of the Pei Ziyan family, Xiaoling said. She didn't know what Zhou Ma was here for. She was held in Li Lei's arms, waiting for the elevator. Before the elevator arrived, Zhou's mother came out first, carrying large and small bags of things, all of which were used by Xiaoling when she was hospitalized. Xiaoling didn't know what she was doing with these. The elevator is here. Li Lei supported Xiaoling and entered the elevator cautiously, saying, "Be careful, watch your feet, don't let the wound open again." He was still angry. How did Pei Ziyan take care of you? Before Xiaoling said anything, Zhou's mother on the side finally couldn't help but sneered, "Are you Mr. Li, the one who snatched the wife from my husband? Did my husband take good care of his wife? I don't need you to worry about it." "Madam," she turned to look at Xiaoling, "I called you madam for the last time. You just left without saying a word, so cruel. Do you know that after you left this morning, your husband fainted in the company? Now, you live in Sinning Hospital. The first thing he did when he woke up from the hospital bed was to ask me to bring him the things you used when you were hospitalized. He loves you so much and cherishes you, but what about you? What did you do to him?" End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 498. Chapter 498 Confidentiality. Xiaoling was stunned by what Zhou Ma said. Did Pei Ziyan faint? Zhou's mother looked sad. "Mr. has been very busy during this period, and he still has to take care of you. He is so sad and overworked that he fainted when you left." Xiaoling's heart felt like it was being grabbed by someone, and it hurt a little. It's really strange, he was so cruel to her. Why would she feel sad when she learned that he was injured? Li Lei on the side spoke, "Since you know that Xiaoling is no longer your wife, what's the use of saying these words to her? In addition, I want to remind you, don't speak casually if you don't understand the situation. It was Pei Ziyan's own choice. The family business gave up Xiaoling, otherwise Xiaoling would not come back to me. Since it was his own choice, don't pretend to blame Xiaoling, and don't let me look down on him." Zhou's mother glared at him. "Sir, he loves my wife so much, how could he give up on her?" It seemed that the servant had no idea what was going on. Li Lei sneered softly, "Don't you know? His emperor can't withstand my offensive, so he chose to hand over Xiaoling in exchange for the safety of the emperor. He is willing to admit defeat and has nothing to complain about." Zhou's mother said, "That's why you are despicable. Use such means to threaten Mr. and separate Mr. and Mrs." Li Lei continued to sneer, "Despicable? Threatening? Breaking up? Who is despicable? Who broke up whom? You are just a servant. If you don't know anything, don't make such nonsense." Xiaoling did not stay with Pei Ziyan voluntarily from the beginning. It was Pei Ziyan who used despicable means to force Xiaoling to leave me. Now, Xiaoling just breaks away from him and is happy with me according to her own heart. Zhou's mother didn't expect that things would turn out like this. She looked at them in disbelief and asked Xiaoling, "Madam, is everything he said true?" Xiaoling hesitated for a moment and nodded slightly. "In the past 2 years, I have loved Li Lei and I have never changed my mind," Xiaoling said to Zhou's mother. "It was Pei Ziyan who broke us up." Zhou's mother, "It's meaningless to say this now. The matter has passed. Everyone lives their own lives. You, take good care of him." The last sentence, "I still feel sorry for Pei Ziyan." Zhou's mother looked at Xiaoling, as if trying to distinguish the truth from falsehood in her words, but found in despair that what Xiaoling said was probably true. From the beginning, she was not pregnant with her husband's child. She suffered so much and suffered so much in order to preserve that child. After all, she really loved the child's father. Looking at the harmonious couple in front of her, Joe's mother thought that this man named Lilay was probably the child's biological father. After thinking about this, her eyes dimmed a little bit. Mr. didn't know what kind of evil he had committed. Many ladies from famous families cried and shouted to marry him. In the end, he fell in love with a woman who belonged to someone else. Injustice is all injustice. The elevator dinged softly and it arrived. Joe's mother didn't say anything else, and hurried away with her things in her arms. Xiaoling's expression was a little sad, thinking of Joe Ma's words in her heart. It was heavy. Lilay looked at her and asked, "Are you worried about him?" He didn't say the person's name, but both of them knew who he was referring to. Xiaoling was slightly startled, nodded, and then shook her head. Her heart was a little confused. Although she no longer loved Pei Xian's kindness to her was still there. The kindness of raising her and the kindness of saving her life were facts that could not be denied no matter what the waves of love were. Although she hopes to stay away from him, she also hopes that he will live well. Lilay's mood was also a little low. He didn't understand why Xiaoling still cared about Pei Xian at this time. Maybe, giving birth to a child for Pei Xian is different? Although the child is dead, but, it is different after all. Along the way, the two of them had their own thoughts and were silent without speaking. It wasn't until she got into Lilay's car that Xiaoling suddenly spoke. "You said you would let the emperor go, right?" Lilay nodded. "Yes, the emperor's current situation is not good. He is defeated like a mountain. Tianyi can crush it to death like an ant with just a little move of his little finger. However, as early as when Xiaoquashi helped set up the feng shui array, he said, as long as Xiaoling comes back, you will stop as soon as she comes back." Lilay didn't understand why, but the purpose of his move was just to save Xiaoling. Relying on the feng shui array to defeat the emperor would be unviable. He didn't want Xiaoling to look down on him in the future. He called his subordinates in front of Xiaoling. "Stop it all." "Hash off the phone," Xiaoling said to him. "Thank you." Lilay was not very happy. "I don't want you to say thank you to me for another man." Xiaoling was stunned at first, then smiled and said, "Yeah, okay." Lilay also smiled, grabbed her hand and held it in his own. "Lilay," Xiaoling asked him softly, "do you feel regretful? It is obvious that the emperor can be defeated. As long as the emperor collapses, the entire entertainment industry can be said to be dominated by Tianyi." Lilay knew her well and knew what she was asking, so he didn't hide it. "Pei Xian is a respectable opponent. If I use Xiaoquashi's power to bankrupt him, it will be an insult to him and an insult to myself anyway. He just wants his Xiaoling." Xiaoling nodded slightly and asked, "Where is the national preceptor now?" Lilay said, "I don't know where Yunyu has gone. By the way, he asked me to tell you something." "What's the word?" Xiaoling couldn't help but be curious when she heard that her brother had left a message for her. Lilay said, "I don't quite understand what he means. He said that what he said when he met you that time. Please keep it secret." After a pause, he asked curiously, "The Imperial Master is telling you what?" "I told you to keep it a secret," Xiaoling scolded him with a smile. "But I was thinking in my heart, what I said last time should be kept secret." The last time they met, the two talked about her phoenix destiny and, they were brother and sister. Could it be that my brother doesn't want people to know about their relationship? Metaphysical people are always mysterious. Xiaoling didn't think much about it. Since he asked to keep it a secret, it was okay to keep it a secret. Lilay was not angry when she rejected him. He just turned the steering wheel and said with a smile, "Sit tight, let's go home." The off-road vehicle drove very fast on the road, and not long after, it arrived at the foot of Lilay's apartment. Xiaoling looked around and saw the familiar flowers, trees, buildings, and security guards. The security supervisor was very happy to see her and greeted her with a smile on his face. "Miss Ye, you are finally back." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Sci-fi. Chapter 499. Chapter 499 Divorce Agreement. Yes, Miss Ye, you don't know how much our Dong brother missed you during your absence, another security guard said. Whether intentionally or not, none of the security guards here called her Mrs. Pei, they all called her Miss Ye. Xiaoling felt very comfortable listening to it, as if the tragic experience of that year had never happened. Hey, Li Lei was not happy and scolded with a smile, I'm tired of living with you, even my women dare to tease you. These security guards were no longer used to Li Lei and did not take his anger to heart. The group of people laughed and laughed. Xiaoling was also infected by the pleasant atmosphere. She followed Li Lei upstairs and returned home in a good mood. Pushing open the door to the apartment, it feels like a completely different world. Everything is still as it was when I left, the screen with rockery and flowing water, the gravel floor, and the glass stream. On the balcony at the end of the creek, there was a leopard lying lazily. Its soft fur shone like silk in the sun. It was Er Mao. Er Mao heard the noise in the living room, and raised his drooped eyelids slightly. When he saw it was her, his ears moved imperceptibly, swung his tail, and lazily sunbathed in the sun again. Under its belly, a small head poked out, meowed softly, shook its fur, and looked around. Mao Tuanzi, Xiaoling was pleasantly surprised. She took a few steps forward and squatted down next to Mao Tuanzi. When Mao Tuanzi saw her, he seemed a little unrecognizable for a moment, but soon he meowed again, his little body jumped into her arms, and his little head nuzzled her. Let me see, he's grown so big. Xiaoling lifted the hairy dumpling and looked at it carefully in the sun. Oh, I'm fat. All of us have lost weight during this period, but you have gained weight. Li Lei looked at her playing with the kitten with a smile and looked a little proud. That's right, you don't even know who raised the cat. Ever since Xiaoling moved out of Luoluo's apartment, Luoluo had followed her instructions. Send the hairy dumplings to Li Lei to raise. Li Lei was very experienced in raising pets. He took good care of the kittens. He ate, slept, and ate every day. The rest of the time was spent playing with Mao. Both pets had gained a lot of weight. Seeing Xiaoling having fun holding Mao Dumpling, Mao, who was lying aside, became unhappy. He raised his furry body slightly, rubbed his big head towards Xiaoling's feet with a look of disgust, and looked away as if he was disdainful. Go. This leopard is much more arrogant than its owner. Xiaoling reached out and rubbed Mao's soft fur, recalling the ferocious appearance of this beast when they first met. She never expected that 2 or 3 years later, she would be able to get along so well with it. Thanks to its owner. Xiaoling raised her head and looked at Li Lei again. It must be very hard to raise them both by myself while I'm away. It's hard work. Li Lei hugged her into his arms. It won't be hard after you come back. Xiaoling smiled and rubbed his head just like she did with Mao. She said, show me the room. So Li Lei took her to visit the apartment. Sure enough, all the furnishings were still the same as when she left. It seemed that they had been cleaned frequently, and they looked neat, bright, and spotless. It's been reserved for me to come back and live there, Xiaoling said. It's not for you to live in. Li Lei had a serious look on his face. Xiaoling glanced at him. What? Classmate Li Xiaolia laughed cheekily. Look, you finally came back. How about living with me? Stop living next door to me and move into my room. Give this room to Mao and Mao Tuanzi. Don't you want to live with me, disturb their two-person world? Don't disturb the world of Mao and Mao Tuanzi? Xiaoling didn't expect that he could even come up with such a reason, and she felt angry and funny for a moment. Even Mao on the balcony looked at his master with disdain. Li Lei didn't care. Sleep together, Sleep together. He was shameless in risking his life. Over the past year, he had learned the hard lesson that his wife ran away with someone. He decided to cherish every moment with his wife from now on. Every second, especially sleeping, cannot be missed. Looking at him acting cute like a big boy, Xiaoling's heart softened. Okay, let's sleep together. Over the past year, not only has he missed her, but she has also missed him unforgettably. Now that I'm back, I don't want to be separated for even a second. Li Lei smiled happily and took her hand into his room. The room is still his style, a spacious and comfortable living room, with a thick blanket spread under the leather sofa, neat and quiet. Xiaoling walked to the sofa and sat down. Li Lei suddenly said, "What is this?" Xiaoling looked up and saw a suitcase in the corner of the living room. Then she remembered that it was the suitcase that Pei Ziyan had ordered Zhou's mother to take with her when she came out of Pei Ziyan's house this morning. "The things I brought out from Pei's house," Xiaoling said, "weird, aren't they placed at Tianyi, in your office?" After she arrived at Li Lei's office, the wound on her lower abdomen opened, and Li Lei carried her directly to the hospital and left the suitcase in the office without taking it. When she said this, Li Lei remembered, "While you were in the hospital, Tan Ying returned to the company and found this box in my office. He said it looked expensive and asked me if I wanted to put it away. I don't know what it is, but I guess it's yours, so I asked him to bring it to the apartment. Tan Ying is also a regular customer here, and his access is not restricted by the access control." Xiaoling nodded. She didn't know what was in the box, so she walked over to open it. Password lock. Li Lei accompanied her, squatting in front of the calfskin box that seemed to be of extraordinary workmanship, and watched her enter the password. Xiaoling didn't know what the password was at all. No one had told her about it, so she had to try it one by one. "I tried the Pei family's house number first, but it was wrong. I tried Pei Ziyan's birthday again, but it was wrong. I tried my real birthday again, but it still wasn't right. Finally, try the birthday of your previous life and the anniversary of the day you first met Pei Ziyan. This time, it was finally right, the code lock was opened." She felt a little uncomfortable in her heart and her mood dropped slightly. Li Lei observed her words and knew that she was probably remembering some past events and her mood was a little heavy. Although his Xiaoling has left Pei Ziyan, the shadow of that man is still not completely absent from her heart. He pretended he didn't know anything, so he steeled himself to look at the box and said, "What's inside?" At the top of the box, there was a small document. When he opened it, the words divorce agreement were clearly visible. Xiaoling was a little confused. She didn't expect that this was what Pei Ziyan wanted her to bring out. She reached out and picked up the document. It had Pei Ziyan's signature on it, and the other signature column was empty. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 500. Chapter 500. Precious Jewelry. Li Lei also thought of her wedding to Pei Ziyan on Qixi Festival, and gritted his teeth and said, "He is really haunted." Xiaoling said, "Originally, I didn't sign the marriage certificate. However, it's fine now. If we divorce, we'll divorce. There is no connection anymore." She said to Li Lei, "Find me a pen." "You want to sign that divorce agreement?" Li Lei was unhappy. "Didn't you say that the marriage certificate was not signed by you, so what qualifications does he have to divorce you? The marriage certificate was originally a fake." Now, classmate Li Xiaoli is very excited. He originally thought that Xiaoling and Pei Ziyan were married, but suddenly he learned that the marriage certificate was not Xiaoling's signature. In other words, Xiaoling was not married yet. This is really great news. Xiaoling smiled bitterly. Why doesn't it count? Although the signature is fake, it has been registered in the Civil Affairs Bureau system and has legal effect. Legally, I am Pei Ziyan's wife. This divorce agreement still needs to be signed. If you sign it, will you soon confirm your marriage to Pei Zion? Li Lei gritted his teeth. His plan was a failure. He was just about to let me go, and he tricked you again. No, we can't just let this matter go. Admit. Then what do you say? Xiaoling now listens to him in everything. Li Lei thought for a while. I'm going to find someone to expose the forgery of your marriage certificate and ask the relevant agencies to declare the marriage invalid. That way, Xiaoling would not be a divorced woman, but a single woman. Xiaoling thought about it and said, okay. Li Lei smiled and kissed her forehead. He was determined not to let her suffer what she didn't deserve. Xiaoling then rummaged through the lower layer of the box. Under the divorce agreement, there were actually a large number of precious jewelry, including the 200 million colored diamond bracelet and blue diamond necklace that she had received as a gift in this life, as well as the pieces she had received one after another when she followed Pei Zion in her previous life. Collected jade earrings, pearl hair accessories, rare and precious rings, bracelets, etc. There is a dazzling array of items to choose from. For a moment, her expression became complicated. Li Lei's expression turned ugly. What does he mean by giving something to my woman? Isn't the Pei family about to go bankrupt? Where did he get so much spare money to pick up girls? If I had known earlier, I should have really destroyed him. Classmate Li Xiaoli, I regretted it very much. Xiaoling closed the box. What are you going to do with this box like this? Li Lei asked cautiously, and coaxed her with gentle words. Little Ling, if you like jewelry, I will buy it for you, as much as you want. Please don't wear these, okay? Xiaoling was amused by his nervous look. Who said I should wear these? After saying this, she felt a little sad. I will seal this box. A turbulent past is over, which means the end of an era. The entanglement between her and Pei Zion for 2 lifetimes should be sealed with this box. Li Lei's eyebrows widened at this moment, and he behaved well after getting an advantage. I knew Xiaoling was the best. He pushed further and said, it would be a waste to seal it up. How about selling it? Xiaoling hit his head angrily and funnily. Don't even think about it. The look in Li Lei's eyes became darker. Xiaoling noticed it very keenly, fearing that he might have a grudge in his heart, so she hesitated and said, Li Lei, everyone has a past, and Pei Zion is my past. I can't throw him away like trash. Do you understand? Forgive me, sealing him away is my limit. Li Lei's expression also became serious. I said when I confessed to you for the first time, I still like you even if you have someone else in your heart. With you. Xiaoling, we have gone through such difficult times before. What does this little thing mean now? Yes, he will feel uncomfortable, but he will go on slowly with Xiaoling, until the hair turns gray. He could feel that she was already working hard to love him, and he didn't want to push her too hard. Xiaoling was moved and gave him a warm hug. The whole day today was hectic, and by this time, Xiaoling was already very tired. Li Lei put the bath water in for her, arranged for her to take a bath, lay on the bed, cooked dinner with his own hands, and served it to her. Xiaoling took a bite of the shrimp and swallow dumplings with fragrant skin and tender filling, and suddenly felt a little startled. This taste. She suddenly understood. When I was pregnant, I couldn't eat anything. You cooked all the food I had at Feng Kun's place. Yeah, Li Lei was obviously very proud, and he nodded lightly. It's just a little effort, just a little thing. After thinking about it, he added proudly, I knew you couldn't live without me. Just pretend. Xiaoling scolded him with a smile, but her nose felt sour. He didn't even know that the child was his biological child, but he was so kind to the mother and son. How could she not be moved? It's such a pity that the child was not saved after all. Thinking of this, her white and slender hands unconsciously touched her lower abdomen, and the faint pain made her sad. Even if she returned to Li Lei now, this kind of pain could not be healed. Li Lei looked at her carefully, guessing that she was thinking of the dead child, and couldn't help but said, Take good care of yourself and don't let the wound open again. Maybe you can get pregnant again in the future. What the doctor said may not be true. 100% accurate. Xiaoling shook her head. Even if what the doctor said was not 100% accurate, it was at least 90% accurate. The hope was slim and she didn't dare to think too much. Besides, what if I get pregnant with another child? That was not the original one, not her Xiaowai, that little baby who was a little skinny and looked innocent when he smiled. I won't let her go. Xiaoling's voice was a little low and she gritted her teeth. Who won't be let go? Li Lei asked. He was afraid of arousing her sadness before, so he didn't dare to ask in detail about the cause of the child's death. Now that he heard what she said, could there be something hidden in it? Xiaoling was distracted and felt that something was not right. Pei Xian told me that it was Xiaoyu who sneaked into the villa and threw the child into the trash can. However, I didn't see it with my own eyes, and there was no surveillance video. Come on, is it really Xiaoyu who did it? Xiaoling originally wanted to say whether it was Pei Xian, but Li Lei thought that Pei Xian was the biological father of the child, so in his eyes, Pei Xian had no motive for committing the crime. If she doubted Pei Xian, it would arouse Li Lei's doubts. It's possible for others Li Lei didn't have a specific target of suspicion, but he didn't fix his mind on it either. He said, "Shall I check it for you?" Xiaoling nodded, "Let's start with Xiaoyu first. If it's not her, then go to others. I will also confront Xiaoyu and ask for her side of the story. She must find out the real culprit who murdered her child." You have to take good care of your injuries, Li Lei said. Only by taking good care of your injuries can you have the strength to avenge the baby. He held her hand. No matter what happens, I will always stand by your side and help you solve it together. Xiaoling looked at him and showed a faint smile. Okay. End of this chapter.